Well, he was stating
right here.
right in front of the
Got
cops
New
and in front of the other
Glasgow,
girls. And now I can
Truro,
say this is the
and
truth because
Lansdowne Station
a lot of
is
people heard this,
somewhere
and she was stating that
in the middle there.
the kids were
There's
getting tucked in
Lansdowne
nice warm beds
Station.
in New Brunswick right at that point. And
That's where
Janie,
Lilly and
now see, I
Jack
promised Janie
live.
up to this point that I would
New
not say who Janie
Brunswick,
was.
not a million miles
Hi,
away,
Janie.
is it?
So
apparently,
even up to the
they're
other night,
in,
even up to
or at least they
not
went
long
to,
ago.
Yeah.
And then
New
Janie,
Brunswick.
I go, and I know I made myself look bad when I was telling you guys, no, there was somebody else. I got a good source there.
Yeah.
That backed up what Daniel was saying in the driveway.
Janie.
And right to the, Janie even grabbed me and took me for the tour. She showed me exactly where they come out of the house, exactly why the boot print was there, exactly where they went to the driveway, exactly where Malaya was parking, sitting on her butt in the grass by the woodpile for a little while, like right down to the T. And there's nobody, if you ever heard truth in your life, you heard it there. And she made the same statement. Here's another thing. She did the same thing with the major crime unit. And this is what pisses me off. One of the things that pisses me off. She walked them right through that whole thing. Now, Daniel was telling her this story. Janie was telling them this story. And yet they still went on with this. Anyway, let's not say what they did for now, because I don't know exactly. But anyway, they never.
What if the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan was an accident? What if their own mother had a dark plan all along, and now she's vanished without a trace? Tonight, we dive deep into the chilling case that's rocked Nova Scotia, the disappearance of two innocent children and a mother who may be more involved than anyone dared to imagine. On the morning of May 2nd, 2025, 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother, Jack, were last seen at their family's quiet rural property in Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia, a place where neighbors knew each other by name and children were usually safe to roam under watchful eyes. Their mother, 27-year-old Malehya Brooks-Murray, told police she awoke to an unsettling scene. The house was silent, the children were nowhere to be found, and there were no signs of a struggle. According to her first statement, she believed they may have wandered outside to play, possibly drawn to the yard or the surrounding woods. But from the very beginning, her account left gaping holes that investigators couldn't ignore. There were no clear descriptions of the children's last actions before they disappeared. She could not recall precisely what they had been wearing that morning, a detail almost every parent can remember in moments of crisis. Even more puzzling, there was no mention of hearing doors open, footsteps, or voices. Just a sudden, unexplained absence. Then came the first crack in the family's united front. Her boyfriend, 31-year-old Daniel Martel, told authorities something entirely different. He claimed that shortly after the children were last seen, he heard the sliding patio door open and then close again. It was a small detail, but one that directly contradicted Malehya's original version of events. If Daniel's account was accurate, it meant there was a specific moment when someone, possibly the children themselves, left the house. Yet in her initial statement, Malehya gave no indication that such a moment existed. This early inconsistency set the tone for the investigation. It forced police to consider the possibility that the timeline was already compromised before search teams even began their work. Forensic investigators, search and rescue units, and community volunteers combed through fields, tree lines, and riverbanks, try to match the parents' words with physical evidence. But the more they looked, the more the narrative surrounding that morning began to feel unstable, as though key pieces were being left out or intentionally reshaped. Then came a move that stunned both investigators and the community. Barely 24 hours after Lilly and Jack were reported missing, their mother, Malehya Brooks-Murray, packed up and left the family home entirely. There was no public statement pleading for their safe return, no tearful vigil appearance, no visible effort to remain close to the search. Instead, she physically removed herself from the very place where her children had last been seen alive. Almost as if to seal the separation, Malehya updated her Facebook relationship status to single, publicly signaling a break from her partner, Daniel Martel. She didn't stop there. She also blocked him on social media, cutting off even digital contact. To friends, neighbors, and the hundreds of strangers following the case online, the optics were baffling. Here was a mother whose children had vanished under mysterious circumstances, yet her most visible actions involved ending a relationship and leaving the scene of the search. To the people who had been searching through the woods, wading through ditches, and combing fields in hopes of finding Lilly and Jack, the message they sent was chilling. Why would any parent willingly walk away from the last place their children were seen? Why not stay close, ready to answer police questions at a moment's notice, ready to join the next search party? For Daniel Martel, The change was sudden and inexplicable. One day, they were together, facing the unthinkable, and the next, she had vanished from his life as abruptly as the children had from theirs. His own response was marked by a quiet withdrawal. He gave no interviews, issued no statements, and offered no public defense against the growing speculation. That silence only intensified the suspicion swirling around both of them, leaving the community to wonder whether the truth about Lilly and Jack's disappearance was being buried, not by strangers, but by those closest to them. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police responded with the full weight of their resources, launching one of the most intensive missing persons investigations the quiet region of Lansdowne Station had ever seen. Search and rescue teams swept through thick forests, marshy terrain, and winding creeks, while forensic units scoured the family home for any trace of evidence. Officers went door to door, speaking with neighbors, tracking every possible lead, and gathering surveillance footage from surrounding properties. Both Malehya Brooks-Murray and Daniel Martel were brought in for questioning and subjected to polygraph examinations, a move that signaled investigators deep suspicion that answers might lie close to home. Yet despite the breadth of the search and the sheer manpower invested, no conclusive evidence of an abduction has surfaced. The possibility of foul play remains firmly on the table, but without a clear suspect or recovered trace of Lilly or Jack, the case hangs in a limbo that feels unbearable to those desperate for answers in the court of public opinion. However, the patience wore thin long ago. People have zeroed in on behavior of the children's mother, not just what she said, but what she didn't say, and the timing of her actions. Her story has shifted in subtle yet critical ways between interviews. Her unexplained decision to leave the family home barely a day after her children vanished, coupled with her abrupt social media breakup and disappearance in the community, has only fueled perception that she is withholding something. Among neighbors, online sleuths, and even strangers following the case from afar, a haunting question has taken root. Is this a grieving mother facing unimaginable loss, or a woman hiding from the consequences of her own actions? Could the disappearance of Lilly and Jack have been orchestrated from within the very walls meant to protect them? And if that's true, is Malehya Brooks-Murray merely keeping secrets, or is she already in motion, putting distance between herself and the truth, running from a justice that may one day catch up with her? The disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan didn't just grip Nova Scotia. It ignited a firestorm. Within days, the case was splashed across headlines, dominating social media feeds and local newscasts. The public's outrage grew louder with every passing hour, fueled by the lack of clear answers and the unsettling behavior of those closest to the children. Volunteers poured in from neighboring towns, forming search parties that combed through forests, fields, and waterways with unwavering determination. Entire communities came together to distribute flyers, organize vigils, and keep the children's faces in the public eye. Fundraisers quickly gained momentum, bringing in donations from people who had never met Lilly or Jack but felt the urgency of finding them. Yet beneath the generosity, there was a deep current of mistrust. Many could not ignore the inconsistencies in Malehya's and Daniel Martel's statements, or the fact that the mother had vanished from the area so soon after the children were reported missing. Social media groups dedicated to the case became gathering points for speculation, theories, and raw frustration. To some, the behavior of the parents didn't align with that of a desperate family searching for their children. When the reward for information skyrocketed to $150,000, one of the largest ever offered in the province, the hope was that someone, somewhere, would step forward with the truth. But even with the stakes that high, no solid lead emerged. And through it all, one fact remained constant. Malehya Brooks-Murray, the woman at the heart of this tragedy, was gone. No press conferences, no sightings, no confirmed address. The central figure in one of Nova Scotia's most devastating and mysterious cases had seemingly vanished into the wind, leaving behind only questions, and a growing suspicion that she might never want to be found. What truly happened to 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother, Jack? Were these two innocent children swept away by a tragic and unforeseeable accident, or was their disappearance the end result of a plan carefully shaped in the shadows, orchestrated by the very person they should have been safest with? The possibility that their own mother, Malehya Brooks-Murray, may have played a direct role in their vanishing, and then remove herself from the community to escape the inevitable questions, has hung over this case like an unshakable fog. Her abrupt departure from the family home just a day after the children were reported missing, her altered relationship status, the blocking of her partner, her refusal to face the public, all of it paints a troubling picture. It is not the image of a mother clinging desperately to hope, staying close to the place her children were last seen. Instead, it is the image of someone putting as much distance as possible between herself and the events of that morning. Yet, what if even this isn't the whole truth? What if the real story is more disturbing than anything the public has been allowed to imagine? Behind the closed doors of RCMP offices, investigators may be piecing together timelines, witness statements, and forensic results that the media hasn't been given. Fragments of evidence that could change the entire direction of the case in an instant. There may be details so sensitive, so incriminating, that releasing them too soon could jeopardize the investigation entirely. Consider the silence, not just from Malehya, but from Daniel Martel, from neighbors who may have noticed something but hesitate to speak, from anyone who might have been present in those final moments before Lilly and Jack were gone. Silence could be accidental, born of fear or uncertainty, but it can also be deliberate, used as a shield to protect the guilty. Somewhere in that silence lies the answer. It could be hidden in the precise moment Daniel claims he heard the sliding door. It could be buried in the minutes unaccounted for in Malehya's statements. It could be sealed away in a piece of evidence found during those frantic early searches, something investigators haven't disclosed. Until those truths are uncovered and spoken aloud, this case will remain an open wound in Nova Scotia's history, a story of two small children whose faces we see on flyers, whose names we repeat at vigils, but whose final hours remain locked away behind a wall of secrets. And as long as those answers stay buried, the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan will not just haunt those who knew them, it will haunt all of us. If you have any information, no matter how insignificant you think it might be, about the whereabouts of 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan, 4-year-old Jack Sullivan, or their mother, Malehya Brooks-Murray, you must come forward. Call the Royal Canadian Mounted Police immediately. It doesn't matter if what you know seems small, trivial, or unrelated. It could be something you overheard in passing. Something you saw out of the corner of your eye. That didn't make sense at the time. A vehicle you noticed near the Sullivan property on the morning of May 2nd, 2025. A comment someone made that seemed odd, but you shrugged off. It could even be a change in someone's behavior that you can't quite explain. The tiniest detail, the one you think couldn't possibly matter, might be the very thing that connects all the pieces of this puzzle. Investigators have been working tirelessly, chasing every lead, searching every inch of land and water. But without that one breakthrough, Lilly and Jack remain missing, their case trapped in the dark. Each day that passes without answers allows the trail to grow colder, the truth to sink deeper into the shadows, and the possibility of justice to drift further away. Remember, these are two young children, innocent lives cut off from everything they knew. They deserve to be found. They deserve to have their voices heard, even if they can't speak for themselves anymore. And that can only happen if the truth is brought to light. If you have seen something, heard something, or even suspect that someone you know is hiding information, now is the time to act. You might feel afraid or unsure or worried about being wrong, but your courage could be the turning point. Your call could be the reason investigators finally find the answers they've been searching for. Because justice for Lilly and Jack doesn't just depend on the police or on the people closest to them. It depends on all of us. It depends on a willingness to speak up, to refuse to protect secrets, to value truth over comfort, no matter how hard it may be to face. Silence protects only those who wish to keep the truth buried. And the longer that silence is allowed to hold, the longer these children remain lost in the shadows. If you know something, say something. Do it for Lilly. Do it for Jack. Do it because some truths are too important to die with the people who keep them hidden.